Welcome back to Uncaptured with me, Khumalo.
And myself, Undumiso Wakangcobo, iqadi. Lasemaqadini naseHammersdale. I love it.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. Today we have a topic that's very important to myself and Indumiso, and that's the issue of organ donorship. Are you an organ donor? Do you even know? Maybe you signed a piece of paper a long time ago and you don't even remember. And most importantly, have you told your family about what you would like done with your remains when you eventually pass away? Because this is not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Yeah. So should you unfortunately die in tragic circumstances, but your body organs remains alive and could save somebody's lives, why wouldn't you participate? Today, we have someone who is a recipient of an organ, and her name is Naomi Khumalo, and she's going to be our guest for the show. Naomi, welcome.
Thank you
for Or should I say
me.
Welcome back? The last time it was a different show. It was Uncaptured. Now you are still Uncaptured.
Yeah, it's been a minute, five years to be exact. I think we met March 2020. And then I was awaiting a kidney transplant. So here I am now, a kidney recipient, and I am 2 years in at the end of the month.
That's incredible. So Freedom Day, basically, just to date this will show definitely after Freedom Day in South Africa, but the 27th of April was a very different kind of freedom for you. But before we go into that particular freedom that you got, tell us about how did you get sick?
All right. So I was diagnosed with lupus 2020. Then it was during the World Cup. I'd gone to watch the Bafana game at Ernest Free.
So 2010.
2010. Apologies.
Yes. Okay.
2010.
Yeah.
And gone to watch Bafana at Ernest Free Park, and parked quite a distance, maybe give or take 5 kilometers away, because, it was packed. And we walked down and we watched the game. And when I walked back up, I realized that my feet were swollen. I was wearing boots, and I got home, and to the point that I actually couldn't get my feet under the boots. We had to cut the boots open. But when I went and consulted with the GP, they did the mandatory tests, and they realized that I had kidney issues. And I'd went to see a specialist at Morningside Mediclinic, and he had told me then that I had lupus. For people who don't know what lupus is, it's an autoimmune disease in which your healthy tissue fights your own organs or tissues. So, for instance, if you have flu, your antibodies will fight that foreign bacteria in the body. But what happens with lupus is that my antibodies were actually fighting my own tissue, and the kidney being the softest tissue, the kidney actually gave in or failed. The problem with kidney failure, you only see the symptoms once the kidneys have failed. You don't actually have physical symptoms of, once you have the symptoms of the swollen feet, the fatigue, the almost arthritic symptoms, the joint pains and stuff, it's already past gone. You're already approaching acute kidney failure, and then you're looking at treatment to look at that.
So you were diagnosed with
lupus, and that lupus had now affected the kidney and resulted in what then became end-stage kidney failure.
And then they say you have to go on dialysis.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Right. So when I was diagnosed then with the lupus, it was give or take maybe about 4 years that I was consulting with Dr. Wachtang at Witwatersrand Gordon, in which they tried to kickstart the kidney with medication, your autoimmunosuppressants, and unfortunately that didn't go as they planned. And in May of 2014, I started dialysis full time. Then my treating nephrologist, Dr. Campbell, who's at Sunninghill Hospital, indicated that I need to do dialysis full time. At that stage, I was working at a big German corporate in an HR position. I was studying part-time. it was a very difficult process to go through, because a year previous to that, my uncle, my father's brother, had passed away of kidney failure. He was in the government sector, public sector, and he was of age, so he was not given the opportunity to have dialysis.
What are the ages at which people can be limited for their dialysis?
There's not really an age to say, but they obviously look at factors of, they would rather put somebody who's younger on dialysis, who's got a longer lifespan. So he was almost approaching 60, 70. So and then in the public sector, they have a limited space of beds, if you want to call it, or space. In the private sector, they make space, so it becomes a little bit difficult to assess or to say what is the age cutoff for somebody who is or who qualifies for dialysis. So it's a different ball game in private and government, and that's something that we're grappling with in terms of offering or services.
So basically, the issue really is just that in private, if you've got the money, you've got the money. And
yes, they give you the bed. They always make space.
But just like a step back, because I was listening to you very carefully.
Sure.
And you're talking about kidney, and you're talking like it wasn't plural. So you're in your particular situation, like both kidneys were failing.
Yes. So
simultaneously.
What actually happens once you are declared having to have end-stage kidney failure, you're looking at, if you're even lucky, 3% kidney function. So it's like end stage is like there's no reverse gear. It's gone. So you that's what it is. It's your life is dialysis or it's transplant.
What and I have to ask all the dumb questions here. For me, dialysis, you only see it depicted in movies, and you so
yes.
What does it actually mean? Dialysis. You wake up in the morning. Okay, first of all, you wake up in the morning. What do you need to have done, not have done, and whatever before you go in? But just take us through your typical day of dialysis. What does that look like?
And last time you had a port in here.
I still do.
Yes.
You still do?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So dialysis, let's maybe start at the beginning. What is dialysis? So dialysis is actually a process in which the dialysis machine, will actually assist you to process or work as your kidney, because your kidney is not functioning. The functioning of your kidney is obviously to remove toxins and waste from the body through the urine. And I was somebody who did not pee. Did not pee. I couldn't fill a urine cup because obviously the kidney was not processing. But so dialysis, there would be 3 shifts in a day, sometimes 2, but I used to attend the middle shift. I'd actually stopped working 2016. So I started dialysis 2014. I tried to manage work and slot in dialysis in between. So working full time, attending a 4-hour dialysis session 3 times a week. It was very strenuous. I was in hospital every 2 or 3 months. High blood pressure, low iron, various complications. And I then took a decision I had the benefit at work to, through Discovery, to take what we call income continuation. And I took that decision then to look after my health. And I left work in May of 2016. And dialysis on a typical day, you would wake up in the morning, get ready to go for dialysis at 11 o'clock. When you go for your session, you most of the time overloaded. You would have what you call the moon face, so big, round, almost like a double chin. What they would call bloated. A lot of people also have the round tummy,
Mm.
a weight gain, that type of thing, and that's also caused by the steroids that you put on. But going for dialysis, the ports, we have 2 types of ports. We have, or 3, let me say. So you've got a graft, you've got a fistula, and you've got a perm cath. So normally when people go in for dialysis in the initial stages, they would put in a perm cath, in which it's an external port, what we would call plug and play. 2 ports. One is to take the blood out of the body, and this is a continuous process. Blood out of the body into the machine, and the machine washes the blood. There's obviously chemicals and stuff that go through the blood to clean and take all the toxins out that would be that the urine, they would come out through the urine, and then the other port would bring the blood back in. So it's a continuous process for 4 hours and some people would work on the machine. Some people would watch movies. Some people would, we'd chat amongst each other. Some people would sleep. It depends how you're feeling on the day, but we are in essence normal people.
But we're talking about 3 to 4 times a week.
Yes. It's strenuous. When I was first diagnosed, I didn't want to speak to anybody because I knew, okay, this is the life. And it's very difficult to accept this drastic change in lifestyle, because we then look at dietary restrictions. We then look at activities that you can't do. You can't have spontaneous holidays anymore because everything needs to be planned. You need to plan your dialysis sessions when you go away. There's a lot that goes into treatment with kidney failure and with dialysis, and there's a lot of complications as well. You can have bleeding during sessions. You can have low blood pressure. You can crash on the machines. You have serious cramps on the machines, and you sort of need to then navigate this new world that you're in of how to understand your body and what is actually happening. And the best thing there is to engage with fellow patients who've been there longer than you, number one, and your medical team, the team at the dialysis unit, your treating nephrologist, to understand what is actually happening to your body and how to deal with particular issues that you may be having on the machine. So life, then I called it a new normal for me, because that was my life. Dialysis was my life. All I did was go to dialysis, and when you come back, sometimes you can't even drive.
I was going to say, do you take yourself? How you feel? You know what I mean? Like on that one,
Yes.
Are you okay to drive yourself? Or is it something that you need help with?
Yes, it would vary. Sometimes I would drive myself. Sometimes I'd find myself at the unit after dialysis and I can't drive back home. And then you'd have to get, family members to come in and collect you and your vehicle and things like that. So, and if you're in hospital or for admissions, then you'd have dialysis in the high care, for instance. And or if you're able to mobilize yourself, then you would actually, because the dialysis unit was in the hospital, you'd actually walk down to the unit but what was important with dialysis was maintaining your weight. So what happens is when you go in for dialysis, you sit on a scale, because the doctor will determine what is the correct weight that you should be in order to keep up with your blood pressure and your heart. Because if you're dealing with high blood pressure, you're putting pressure on the heart. And if there's fluid sitting on the body, which is what they would take off on dialysis, then you'd have bigger issues.
Right.
And we'll probably get into that a little, but because I actually had heart surgery December 2020 due to complications from dialysis. So people who are or who have renal failure or high blood pressure do tend to have heart issues. So it's a little bit.
So it's a comorbidity.
So because when you're looking at kidney failure, most of the people that end up on kidney failure are dealing with high blood pressure and diabetes, and all. So some people may have high blood pressure and diabetes, one or the other. I don't have diabetes, but it just happens that because you're dealing with a high blood pressure and that affects the heart, and the heart is working overtime now. If your blood pressure is not under control and you're having, if I had to tell you the blood pressure that I was having, you'd be absolutely astounded.
What numbers are we talking about?
Hmm?
What numbers are we talking about?
Oh,
blood.
210 over 120. We
Grief.
like really insane numbers. I mean, I even had an episode where I had a heart rate of 200.
What?
Exactly. So it's
Good Lord.
if
That's fast.
yeah. And to tell you guys, I know what heaven looks like because I really had an episode where I'd had enough. It's tough, guys. It's tough to fight through everything. It's tough. And when you're in hospital having to go through surgery, like I go into surgery now like it's nothing, because I was constantly, and everybody calls me by my first name now. I've literally got a bed at Sunninghill Hill Hospital that is my bed. And Sunninghill Hill Hospital was my first home because I spent so much time at Sunninghill Hill.
I want to talk to you more about that, particularly about the recovery process and how life can change with a simple organ donation. We'll be back right after this. Welcome back to the show. I'm talking to Naomi Khumalo about being an organ recipient. And you were lucky enough that in
2023.
2023.
Yes.
We're almost at the 2-year mark. But tell us, first of all, you get on a list.
Yes.
For organ donation, donorship.
And you were on it for how long? 6 years, right? About
6 years. That's correct.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So dialysis for 9, 6 years for the list. And what actually happens now with the list? It's actually a lottery system. So when
What?
Wait, okay. Because I was actually quite curious that there was 3 years. How did you get on the list? So how
so you sort of need to assess and be stabilized. So your treating nephrologist would assess your case, and you obviously need to keep healthy. You need to follow your treatment regime. You need to which is your dialysis, your medication, your diet, to be considered for transplant. Because when we talk about transplant, we're talking about a lifetime commitment. And if you are not able to make this commitment with dialysis and your medications and your doctor's visits and your dietary restrictions, for them to give you a transplant is difficult, because having a transplant, you'll be on autoimmunosuppressants for the rest of your life. So when I talk about lottery, when as we speak of kidney, since I'm a kidney recipient, when a kidney comes into the system, we do blood tests on a monthly basis once you're on this list, and that goes through to the transplant clinic at Witwatersrand Gordon, where liver and kidney transplants are done, and then your blood work would be matched to the kidney that's just come into the system. And at the moment, with regards to kidney awaiting patients at Wits Donald Gordon. We're looking at about, I think it's about 600 patients at Donald Gordon alone. But in terms of organ donors or recipients across South Africa, we're looking at about 4,500.
Is that both in the public and private spheres?
This is public.
Okay.
Yeah.
No.
So even the list at Donald Gordon,
Yes.
is that a public?
So Donald Gordon is private. So they deal with their own numbers. But what is nice is that when a kidney becomes available or a donor becomes available, we're looking at 2 kidneys, and one goes to public and one goes to government.
Oh.
So they and same
Because you
thing-
only really need one.
Yes,
Yeah.
same goes with the lungs and the liver. So you know, a liver, you take a lobe, you can actually split the liver, you take a lobe. So there's this misconception that, you know, it's only private patients that get organs and things like that, but they actually take one government and one public sector, and it the only issue then is the heart, because there's only one heart, and the hearts are done here in Joburg and as well as in Groote Schuur in Cape Town. So they would look at a priority patient, and obviously time, because a heart, for instance, has got 4-hour lifespan from transfer of a donor to a recipient. So, and it's a little bit technical in terms of having to transport that organ to Cape Town on a commercial flight, and depending where that organ was actually coming from, which hospital it was coming from, how long it's going to take from that place to Joburg.
See, I think
all
that's
within the 4-hour window.
Yes,
which
yes,
is why
with
it's
the
so
heart.
important
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
that the people that you have told,
Yes.
right? One of the principles of us doing the show is like, I've got this tattoo
There I do
on
too.
my arm. We've got kind of like the same tattoo.
I need to get the tattoo.
Basically,
now. I've been
and
To
it's a
tell.
pause.
yes.
A pause from an organization called tell.org.
Mm.
And all tell says is tell the people that you love that are going to be in charge when you die that this is what you would like done with your organs. You want to spread the love. You want them to be given to as many different people as is possible, because there's a very short time frame. Imagine you're hysterical. Somebody that you know and love has probably just died.
Yeah.
Literally, that's why you're getting this phone call. So there's a lot to process. But in there, at the back of our minds, we need to be mindful that if I get that call, God forbid, then I need to be able to make a decision to say, yes, please use whatever organs are available, because they don't live forever.
You know, because so here's the thing, right? Just to take a little bit of a step back about why it is that we do this, other than, I suppose, just being weird. I think you and I, because you know, and I want to acknowledge Umila Samzamo, who is a friend of the show of Uncaptured, who actually pointed us to you, because that's how we met you
Yes, yes.
5 years ago. Do you know what I mean? About the fact that hardly anyone talks about these things, and this is the important bit. And most people, okay, let me not say most, a lot of people who wouldn't even think about organ donation are people who have got belief systems that do not allow, and we are not interested in that conversation.
We're not wanting to
we don't care.
convert.
We're not trying to convert anyone. That the issue is about all the people who just haven't really thought about it. We just happen to be weird in the sense that we actually have thought about the fact that
Absolutely.
why would I die and have 2 perfectly healthy kidneys,
Right.
and there's a list of 4,500 people waiting for a kidney? So the question I want to ask you is that for yourself, other than obviously talking to someone like Milase Mzamo that you met, you
Yes,
said
yes,
earlier
yes.
that you've got
a fellow patient.
a
yes.
fellow patient and so on. Had you actually ever had a conversation with anyone about donation before you were
Before she was diagnosed.
before you were diagnosed? You had
Yes.
to-
So,
yeah.
as a youngster, I was not that I'm much older, but then high school days, I was a religious blood donor.
Yeah.
religious, and I'd registered to be an organ donor. I was an organ donor even before I was I had kidney failure. So it's a conversation that I had tried, let's say tried to have with family. And when I was diagnosed with kidney failure, my parents actually refused that I attend dialysis.
Okay.
Yes. My father's a very devout Catholic, or was. He passed Father's Day of 2020. And but they almost had this belief that if you pray hard enough, the kidney will work.
Oh, wow.
I'd moved out of home and I went to stay with then my boyfriend, who then became my husband. And I attended dialysis against their will. But you know, talking about having to discuss organ donation, particularly being somebody of color. So I've got a Xhosa mother, and then I married a Zulu. We are looking at a lot of what you would call cultural restrictions or beliefs that type of conversations. And people don't actually talk about, or even don't want to talk about death, or even think about that until they're dealing with it in their own space. You're not really concerned about
until it's too late.
Yes. And then you're running around and you're thinking about, oh gosh, my daughter needs a liver, and you know, and then that's only when you want to start engaging the conversation. It's a very difficult topic, and even before transplant and even still now, I try as best as I can to go around and speak with members of the public medical fraternity as well, because they are the connect between the donor family and the recipients, to sort of open up the conversation, to give the correct information, because there's a lot of misinformation that's being spread on social media, in entertainment industry, you know, with your soapies and things like that. We need to start having the conversation with people and thinking about life-changing decisions, because for a family who is received a phone call that their loved one has been involved in a tragic accident and is in trauma ICU with severe brain injury, and is being ventilated, and the medical team is unable to assist this person, it's a very traumatic experience. And for them, in that moment of despair, to take a decision of compassion, to give life to another individual that they do not even know, is a different human being. That is a special person, a special family that would take that decision. And as you said, Khumalo, it's about making it known, because in as much as I can write it in a will, I can scream it from the top of the mountain that I'm an organ donor. As you've said, I did this for my 1-year anniversary. My kidneys.
Oh, sweet. They look like twins.
So, you know, and it's on my ID, it's on my driver's license. I'm an organ donor. But if I'm lying there in that bed in the hospital and my family's standing at the foot of the bed and I cannot speak for myself, if anybody amongst those people indicate that they are not pro-organ donation, the transplant team walks away. And somebody...
Okay. So, I mean, right now,
Sure.
please just hold that thought. Right now, I'm looking in this camera. This can be used as evidence that I want my organs to be used. But the law does not care that I have stated this
Publicly.
I want all my organs to be used.
Well, they're
for-
useful
for-
ones.
Okay, why you gotta go to my liver now? Why? There's nothing wrong with my liver. I've actually done in the last 12 months a liver function test, and I'll have you know. No, but like so I still, my mother. If my mother is the one that gets the call, my brother,
grandmother,
whoever it is that gets the call, because all my children, my wife, my brother, I have talked about these things, but it ultimately is just up to them, right?
Correct. And that's why we need to tell our family, tell our loved ones, speak about it. Like, everything organ donation, tissue donation. Guys, this. You know, when you in that position to give life to somebody else when it's no longer of use, in essence.
Right.
Why not have that opportunity?
Did your mom have a change of heart?
They did. When they saw that the dialysis was working, and I was getting better, and even so, they are all organ donors.
Oh wow!
So here's my little. She knows me, and she'll cheek me. Don't cheek her afterwards because I have to ask this very stupid question. So, number one, do you know whose kidney you got? Do you know the identity of the?
We are not privy to that information. I was given the opportunity to write a thank you letter while I was in hospital because I was 3 weeks in hospital post transplant, my recovery. So I was given the opportunity to write to the donor family and express my thanks.
Yeah.
They may not necessarily know that I received it.
Yes.
Right? Because they give of love to anybody who it would best match. As I said, at the lottery system, it would pick the best match candidate for this kidney that came into the system. And then they would call those, if it's 5 patients, to say, okay, come and retest and so forth. So the best match candidate, and then that person would receive it. So but I did have the opportunity to do a donor tribute day at Fourways Memorial last year. And there was recipients of all types, liver, kidney, lung, and heart. And we were all able to give message of thanks. And that was for the donor families. But I can swear probably my donor family was sitting in the crowd, and when they heard my story and they put the dates together, they know all too well that I received their I do know it was a young female though.
And of course the geek in me is also saying, okay, because you're saying it's a young person and that, so potentially because you are an organ donor, this one kidney could actually potentially be passed on to someone else or
no,
not?
So now here's an interesting fact. I have 3 kidneys.
Huh?
So when
I like that smile.
You see the geeky questions? They lead to gold.
So they don't remove your kidneys. So now I've got this little third kidney that's sitting here in the little.
They don't remove the problematic
kidney. No, they don't. More surgery, more complications, more. And
they're not hurting you.
So and that's why you're on the autoimmunosuppressants, because now this third kidney is a foreign object in the body.
Of course.
So now this medication like sort of protects this kidney with your everything. If you don't take your medication, then your antibodies then go again and fight this kidney that's not supposed to be there.
Yeah. All right. Listen, we're carrying on this conversation when we come back. Don't go away. Welcome back to Still Uncaptured, Still in Conversation with Naomi Khumalo about organ donorship. So Naomi, you go from 3 to 4 times a week of dialysis.
Yes.
You get a phone call that says, "Where are you?" Tell me about that day and how your life
you must remember exactly
has subsequently
where you were.
changed.
Okay, so let's okay. So the 26th of April was a dialysis day for me. It was a Wednesday. If you'd remember very well, back in the day, I had dreadlocks.
Yes.
And my hair wasn't growing on here on the sides, so I'd gone for my session at the hair salon, and my stylist said, "Girl, it's gotta go." And I was like, "Dude, it's 8 years work. Like, I'm not happy." So, and fine, choose go. Well, so then I went for my dialysis session at that 11 o'clock. Normal dialysis day, and I went back home, and yeah, okay. Following day is my non-dialysis day. So your non-dialysis days are normally your rest days. You recuperate, you sort of try and do a little bit of housework, you sort of just, waddle along in the house and stuff like that. So, but that day was a cold day, and I was like, my husband had traveled on an international trip to Germany, and I was alone in the house, and I get this phone call at about 8 in the morning that says, "What's Donald Gordon?" And I'm like, okay, what's the deal? I answer the phone, and they said, "How quickly can you get to Donald Gordon?" That time I was based in Boksburg. And
Hey, neighbor.
Easter eggs!
So, and I said 30 minutes. And I said, okay, cool. So I get in the car and I rush off to Donald Gordon. Luckily, then it was a holiday. And then I went there and I did my preliminary tests. There'd been a kidney, obviously, and you just go and do the tests, your COVID tests and all of that, your antibodies, and then they send you home because they have to. The tests take about 3 or 4 hours to run, and then they would call you back whether it's yours or not. And by then, this had been my third rodeo. So I went back home and I slept, and about 1 o'clock, 1:30, I get this phone call, which I was expecting anyway, and still groggy, out of sleep, and the first thing they said to me was congratulations, and I'm like, oh my heavens, oh my heavens. And they said, how quickly can you get to Donald Gordon? And I'm like, 30 minutes. But by then I hadn't packed a bag. I hadn't prepped. The other 2 times I had, pack. Right. When a woman's in waiting for delivery, right. She's in labor. She's got this little bag that she's packed, and when it's time, then she's ready to go. So I'd done that the previous 2 times, and this third time I was like, I'm not packing a bag this time. I'm tired of packing this bag, and every time, then yes, and then I get the call, and then it's so now the kidney's out, and I haven't packed a bag, so I'm like, okay, let's put things together, toiletries, whatever, and whatever I leave behind, then I don't even know how long I've been going to be gone. And I get into the car and I put my phone on Bluetooth, and first person I phoned was my mother, and I said, Mom, the kidney's out. And she's like, what do you mean the kidney's out? And I was like, Mom, I'm on the way to Donald Gordon right this very minute. The kidney's out. And she says to me, but I'm at your brother's soccer game. And I was like, well, Mom, whenever you catch a wake up, like, you'll find me at Donald Gordon. And then I phoned my cousin in Cape Town. She's the biggest gossip. And I said, Shelley, listen, you phone everybody and tell them that I'm on my way to get my transplant. So I get there and I park the car at the parking lot, and I arrived there at reception. My paperwork was already there because the transplant clinic is opposite Donald Gordon. So my file was already at reception. I was doing the admission paperwork there. And a doctor walked up. He was in scribes, walked up to me, and he's like, Mrs. Khumalo. And I'm like, yes. And he just yanked my bag and he's like, I don't have time for paperwork. We need to go now. And then it was like, wham, bam, quick, fast. I had obviously had a wig on and then when I got into the room and I was being prepped and dressed and I was like, okay, there goes the wig. And she stopped, and then my mother arrived with my brother, and it was, phone calls. I think about 3:30, I was being wheeled into theater. Phone calls with family and best wishes, and very nervous, very excited. Didn't know what life would be like.
This is when prayer can come in now.
Yes.
At this point now, we can, we can bring in some prayer.
So, but I did. Naomi's always got drama, But Thursday, Thursday prior to me going in for transplant, I had gone in for an angioplasty with the vascular surgeon, the cleaning of the graft and the fistula. And they were prepping me for a surgery 2 weeks from then. And the transplant came in the middle.
Right.
But then when they were prepping me for that, I was put onto 3 different blood thinners.
Wow. 3.
3, yes. In preparation for this now, cleaning up, yes. But now I had the transplant in the middle. So surgeons finish up the job and they close Naomi up. And at about 2-3 o'clock in the morning, Naomi decides to perform and has severe internal bleeding. And they phoned my mother and they said to her, you need to come now. It's touch and go. They'd phoned my nephrologist and they were like, what is happening with your patient? And she's like, she was being prepped for an angio a week from now. And that's why she complicated. And my nephrologist said, listen, Naomi is the strongest I've got. You do what you need to do. She will fight. And fight I did. That was Thursday. I had the transplant. Friday, Monday, Tuesday, I woke up in transplant ICU. I was incubated, and the first thing I wanted to do was take the tubes out. But I spent 1 week in transplant ICU, 1 week in high care, 1 week in the ward, and on that third Thursday, my mother came to pick me up and I drove myself home.
Okay, I do have the flair for the dramatic. I'm a writer after all. I'm a creative writer, but this does not really require too much drama. We're sitting here with you here now today, regardless of what would have happened if no one had donated this kidney to you. But we literally are sitting with someone who very well may not be here. You are here, we're sitting with you, we're talking with you, you're alive. We can touch you because someone gave you a kidney, right? So, and I can only imagine that it's, I suppose even more dramatic for someone for whom it's like a heart, where it's like, for a fact that they'll be dead, right? Yes. So you're here. You have had a lot more time to actually think about these things than even us who are just friendly to the idea, who are actually very passionate believers in it. Just talk to me a little bit about the fact that you're sitting here, you flash, you're here, you've got a husband.
You drove yourself.
You drove yourself, you came here. We potentially would not have had you in studio because it might have been your dialysis day today, right?
Correct.
But you're here now, right? Just talk a little bit about that, about what, the heart of donation, the heart of it.
Let's take it back just a little bit. So I received the transplant April of 2023. August of 2022, I went in for my normal hospital visit. And while I was in hospital, my graft became septic. And they had to then obviously remove that graft and rebuild a new graft for me, which would be a standard 3 or 4 day hospital stay. But I ended up in hospital for 8 months. And that's when we spoke about the heart rate of 200 and so forth. But when I was discharged from hospital, so from August of 2022 till March of 2023, I was unable to walk. I had no use of my limbs. And when I was discharged from hospitals, the doctor said to me, there is nothing clinically wrong with you. We've done every test in the book and there is nothing wrong with you. But guys, I was not there. And I don't know what you'd want to call it, izinto zabantu, if you want to call it like that. But my mother actually nursed me back to health. And when I returned back to my marital home on the 9th of March, I was still a little bit wobbly, but the following month I received a transplant. But in that episode where I said, I know what heaven looks like, and I actually thought my father would open the gates of heaven for me, God said to me, Danam, hang in just a little bit longer. Your time is coming. And it's you cannot, gosh, I'm even shaking. You cannot even begin to explain the change of life. I can eat anything now. I can go anywhere. Guys, I just had a 2-week trip to Cape Town, like spontaneous. I decided on Friday afternoon at 3:30, I caught a flight at 4:00 and I went to Cape Town. It's amazing. It's amazing to have a second chance at life. I see things differently now. Every little thing is so important. Nothing phases me anymore. You can't be angry. You can't, everything is beautiful. And I wish people could understand what it does for somebody like me to give life when you were in that difficult decision to end life for your loved one. But yeah, sorry guys.
Yeah, no. I get it completely. And thank you very much for opening yourself up to this particular conversation. And that's what we want people to know, is that your one body, first of all, didn't just give her life, because it would have been 2 kidneys.
Yeah, you save 7. So a deceased donor, or your non-heart, or your heart-beating donor, which is your individual who is in ICU, can save up to 7 lives. And then what you'd call your non-heart-beating donor, your dead on arrival, which is what we have a lot in this country. You can give quality of life to up to 70 individuals. So there is a lot of potential to assist your fellow man. And a majority, most religions are appreciative of organ donation, because it is out of love and out of compassion for your fellow human being.
And also, like we are very very fast on this. The fact that Khumalo and I, when we do these shows, because we are so passionate about it, we honestly, seriously, we're not trying to change anyone's mind about if you've got religious beliefs and so on. What we are interested in, and I have to keep on harping on this, is imagine you could save 7 lives, but the only reason that you can't save 7 lives is just you hadn't thought about it.
Yeah.
It's just like a simple thing. You just open your phone and you go to an organ donor organization. That's the first step, right?
Yes.
It's just to go and register, because right now I'm sitting in the studio now. I can see 6 other people.
Yeah.
There are 6 other people that are alive because someone just decided to click on a link and just go and donate.
Yeah, I think what is important here is, as you said, we're not trying to get people to sign up or to be organ donors or to convert. We just need people to have the correct information to make informed decisions.
Yeah.
And you as an individual, as you sit in your own space, it's about you and what you want out of your life and what you want to give back to the world. It's not about your husband. It's not about your mother. It's not about your child. You, and as an individual in your own space, when you praying or when you sit in your space, what is it that you want out of your life, and take it from there, and then have conversations, talk about it, and that's what's important, is we need to talk about it to get people engaging in these conversations, and which is nice that what you guys are doing, because then you can actually get people to be like, oh, I didn't know that, and open up the phone and start researching and start reading, and that's
a culture
yes.
of donating. Like if we open up this conversation, the next time you meet with your other relatives, make it a conversation that, what have you thought about what you would like to do with the end of your life, in terms of your body, so that the people around you know exactly what it is and the impact that it can have. Imagine if your family was just that family. Then when that phone call comes, it's not such a shock.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. We are giving away everything that we possibly can in order to be able to save somebody's life.
And again, the transplant team, if you as a family decide, okay, you need to have a funeral tomorrow, or you've got certain restrictions, you say, okay, not the heart, you can have everything else. They will accommodate the family as best possible. And for them, it's actually the donor family that is the priority.
Where can people get more information about this, Naomi?
All right. So people can actually sign up to be organ donors, or even just get information with the Organ Donor Foundation in South Africa. And they can also get information with tel.org, because they actually do transplant information, and they go around particularly with speaking to medical staff and the general public about raising awareness about organ and tissue donation. So yeah.
Thank you so much, Naomi Khumalo. Think about this, viewers and listeners out there. What if it's your child that needs an organ donor? What if it's your family? What if it's your wife? What if it's your brother? What if it's somebody really close to you that does not have to be lost, whose life and quality of life, most importantly, can be elongated with an organ donorship?
And also, right now, think about this, right? So if there's a list, there are right now 4,500 families sitting there waiting for an organ.
Yeah.
And, yesterday I was driving and I drove past a cemetery, and because I was thinking about this show and that we're going to be recording this, and I'm looking at all the graves, and I'm thinking, I wonder how many of those people wouldn't be there if just someone had just donated just one kidney. You know?
Like without doubt.
It's
Anyway, my name is Khumalo Matsungane, and I am an organ donor.
My name is Ndumiso Ngcobo, and I'm also an organ donor.
See you next time. Yay.
I thought I wouldn't cry.
I would have been surprised.
I also thought I wouldn't. Useless.